All right, so welcome. We are going to start with a few pictures, just kind of a little slideshow. These quotes are quotes from past kids, and they're just labeled as student or parent. Didn't want to try to go get everybody's permission to get quotes in there. But anyway, do you see what that alligator is eating? If you look close, can you see that he is eating an iguana? And this is actually a picture that I took on our tour of Costa Rica. So you get to see the animals up close. Now, you're not like swimming with them or anything, but we had just ample opportunity to see a lot of really cool wildlife. So I actually, this presentation came from the company, but I replaced it with actual pictures that I took on one of my trips. So we took that picture. Isn't that a cool picture? You see the lizard in there? This is one of those, these things are sometimes nicknamed the Jesus lizard because they can walk on water. They will run across the surface of the water and just kind of skitter. And they're just really cool to see them scampering around. So this is a side of a school, actually. And we got a chance to hang out with some kids at this school. And it was just really fun to see, you know, how a school can be so different than this school. And we had a chance to just be a blessing to that particular school that we visited. And the guides that come with you are really good at trying to connect you with locals and get a feeling for kind of the local flavor. So it's not, the picture is better, and boy, the real world is even better. That's supposed to be a deep green in the front there. It's just like so much forest there, and it was just gorgeous. I loved how the light was shining off the lake there. That's actually a lake on the interior of Costa Rica. It's right near the base of a mountain that's a volcano, actually. So this is a picture we took with some of the kids, just doing their fun kid thing, and they actually encouraged me to try to do this, you know, like picture, and they were right. It came out really good. Kids are good at that. Perfect picture for social media, right? So anyway. So first of all, I know some of you guys RSVP'd. If you did not, it's no big deal. Obviously, you might think, why would I need to be RSVP? I'm already here. But I encourage you, if you haven't already, to go to this site. Could you write that up there so that it can persist on the wall there? And the reason is that then you'll get the after email that's like, okay, now we're down to 1 week left or whatever. You can kind of get the updates afterwards. So if you didn't actually RSVP, but you're here tonight, he's writing it over there on the board. I encourage you to go there, and that'll kind of get you on the list to get more info as time goes on. One last, R6WCZU6. All right. Did you get it all?
Yes,
All right. And I'm not going to silence your phones. We're going to go to the agenda.
It's on here.
My travel story, well, I've done a whole lot of trips, and I have to say, these trips are much more fun than the typical trip that I do with my family, just because you get to do all of the really fun things that I'm too cheap to pay for on the trip when I'm with my family. You get to go on the glacier hike, for example. There's no glaciers down there, so we won't be doing that one. But you get to go, we'll go over later all the different things, but one of the things that's really cool about these trips versus a trip you might have done with your family is that there's so many things built in to do to have fun. I mean, nothing beats watching James swimming with, what was that thing that had a furry face looking right at you?
Sea lions?
A sea lion, yep. Or watching you come out sideways out of a water slide.
Yeah.
There's so many just fun things that we do on the trips. So anyway, the trip is happening. Where and when? Well, the trip is happening during spring break, and that's one of the nice parts about this is, well, I'm sure the kids would probably actually like to miss a few days of school. We won't have to miss any days of school. It's basically just over spring break. Starts on the Friday. Ideally, there's a slide here that tells exactly what dates, but starts on the Friday where spring break starts, and then just goes through those 9 days, 2 days of a weekend, all week, following 2 days. That makes a total of 9 days. So you get a nice long trip out of it. To introduce myself a little bit, I'm a math teacher that's been here a long time, and I just love to travel. And so I decided just make sense if I would have a chance to take kids to have that experience, because some kids, just really love travel, and sometimes this is the first time they go out of the country and they get a chance to try some international travel, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's an eye-opening experience for them. So. I already told you about my old science teacher, Mr. Van Hooser, who took me on the very first trip, and I still thank Mr. Van. All right, so just a few more pictures from our trip. There's just so much diversity in Costa Rica. It's got to be a science teacher's paradise.
Absolutely.
We have a chance to really get out into it too. You're kind of moving all the time. Another thing, if you think about a trip that you might take with your family, a lot of times you're going to go someplace for a week and you're going to stay there and just branch out a little bit from that spot. You just go from one side of the country to the other side of the country. And in this case, you even go to another country. I get a chance to see Panama too. So, all right. Mr. Finch, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so this is my 6th year here at Minnetonka, and I taught for a couple of years up in North Dakota before that, and I was lucky enough to be approached by Mr. Server and said, hey, we need another chaperone. And yeah, Costa Rica, like you said, it's a science teacher. Specifically, I teach biology. It's a dream for me. It's unique for the people at home. It's just so cool because it's a unique place where North America and South America are kind of connected, and all the different species are intermingling there, and it's just amazing. So it's really exciting. And the fun we have, it's some of the best memories of a lifetime. Getting to know students and Mr. Server, and the trips we've done have been just amazing. So it's really a treat.
All right. So, I get asked before often, hey, can I come along as a parent? Absolutely, but I can't get you along for free. We a lot of times will have, I've seen mother-son combinations on trip, and that can be really fun. I've seen two siblings go along on a trip. I have seen kids with friends go along on a trip, and I've never actually seen a whole mom, dad, son, daughter, that kind of, never a set of 4. But it would absolutely work, and it's fun. The adults would hang around with the adults. Don't worry, kids, I wouldn't let them hang out with you all the time. But if the adults want to come along, love to have you. Just know that you can go as a family unit if you would like to. So at this point on the video, it's not going to be amazing because for those of you that are watching this at home, I encourage you to go to YouTube and Google Costa Rica and EF, and that's what we're going to be watching here in the class, but I can't put that on the video. So I'm going to pause for a second while we put that up. Okay, we also watched a little video for those of you that are at home on Panama, because we get a chance to see the Panama Canal, and there's an island called Monkey Island. So you go out in the river, visit this island. They have these things so well planned. You're just going from one thing to the next. It's actually extremely exhausting. By the end of the day, you are like, oh my gosh, just let me go to bed, because it's been, but you never get bored. That's one of the best parts. So anyway, if you're watching along at home, you should check out EF and Panama. If you Google that, you'll probably find that video. All right, so here's where it's specifically happening. Friday, March 27th through Monday, April 6th is the zone, and it's 9 days, and they don't give us a guaranteed lock date until we get closer, but every year we have always been able to leave without missing a day of school, and so they've made it work every year. It's humanly possible, but we even have permission from the school that if we have to miss for 2 days, they'd be okay with that. And it would either start 2 days before spring break was over, or it would end, 2 days off. So it can't obviously go over both ends because it's only a 9-day trip. So anyway, and it's time to actually perfect with our spring break. EF is the company that we've been doing this with, and they're really good. Whenever we've had a bus breakdown or anything, happen that has been difficult. They're always there. They've got, I actually originally pitched this trip to the principal as I could arrange everything. And he said, no, nope, nope, nope. You need a big company who's experienced and can be there for you when your bus breaks down and all that. And he was totally right. I'm glad he didn't let me try to schedule it myself because they have got this dialed in. And they take thousands of trips like this every year. And they're going to all different countries. And Costa Rica is one of their biggest ones. And so they have tons of people in country all ready to come if you have any issues and help out and take care of you. We also have a person with us the whole time, and that's really, really nice. So they even have people in Panama, which is rare for a education company. So they are accredited, so if you want to take advantage of their option to get credit for this, I want to make this clear. This would not be a Minnetonka High School credit. This would be a credit from the company, but you can list it as a high school credit, but not from Minnetonka, okay? And you would have to go through a process of basically like doing a project through an online portal, and their teachers would grade it. It would not be us that's grading it. So that is an option, but it's not something that James and I would be walking you through. You'd call up the company and they would walk you through that. So there is even an option to pay something extra and get credit as a college credit. And again, you got to do this project associated with it, so it'll be a little more work when you're on the tour, but it's an option. So let's talk safety. I know that it's the number one concern for everybody is that everybody stays safe. And I'm telling you, I have never felt ever like I was in an unsafe situation. They work really hard to keep you in a safe situation. Obviously, as the company, they can't afford to have anybody get hurt or sick or, you can't control sick, I guess, but they really work hard to try to keep you from any trouble. And they have a 24-hour emergency line for mom and dad. If you're at home and you're like, oh my gosh, my daughter isn't responding, help. I need to make sure she's okay. They have a 24-hour emergency line where they can get through. And the peace of mind policy basically says, let's say that all of a sudden some really scary thing happens in Costa Rica right before our trip was supposed to happen. They have a peace of mind policy that basically says if it's scary enough, they will give you a refund or move the trip to a different time so that you won't have to travel in a situation. Obviously, you could hold your kid back, right? Nobody has to send their kid, but you'd be able to reschedule the trip if there is a big issue. Like, for example, in France, when they had really scary things happen in France, they had to use that peace of mind policy to reschedule some of those trips because it just wasn't safe to go over there. So, all right. And support for my safety policies is basically I would insist on James and I don't drink when we're on the trip, okay? And you happen to know that the adults are not going to be drinking. And we'd also insist that the kids not be drinking. In some foreign countries, they actually can legally drink, but no, they can't legally drink, not on the trip. So we also would have some policies around basically you can't go wander off in the night and feed cats in Costa Rica. That's not an okay thing. So, all right. I'll save more for the details of exactly what our rules are and stuff if you decide you want to come along on the trip. So the group travel part of this, we ideally, if we have enough kids sign up, we're going to go as a private group, which is really cool. We've been able to travel that way before, and if we don't have enough kids sign up, then we'll go as a group. Basically, our group would get merged in with another group from, let's say, North Carolina, and we go all there together. And it's not that bad. You just ride on the same bus together. You don't stay in mixed rooms or anything. The rooms would only be our Minnetonka kids, and your kids don't have to follow the directions of the other chaperones. It would just be we travel together in the bus together, and then when we go to a site, like say a waterfall, we'd all go down to the waterfall together. And if you're going to listen to the guide at the site, they would be, telling the bigger group all of the important stuff. So bottom line, I'm hoping we're just a private. If not, if we don't have enough people sign up, we'll still go even if we have 6 kids. but we'll take it would only be one of the two of us then, and it would be merged in with another group. And that happens all the time. And I've done it that way, and it's just fine. It's really not it's not very stressful. Frankly, it doesn't, the kids that are from Minnetonka oftentimes don't know each other that well anyway. So if you're adding in a few kids from North Carolina, what's the difference? You can't, if you didn't know everybody that was on the tour anyway. So it works out just fine either way. I have had a lot of kids meet kids that are on the trip and then get to know them and then hang out with them after the trip. And, it's a great place to have a chance to meet some more people. A lot of times you get a kind of adventurous group of kids that are just interested in the adventure, and then they kind of just have an adventure together. Let's talk about, I guess I've already mentioned this part. You can get high school credit or college credit, and I didn't mention before, but it's not a bad idea. This can be that thing you talk about in your college application, the essay. You could write a pretty good essay about a trip like this and what you learned. So our itinerary, if we zoom in on this, you're seeing where we would go. And there are so many sites in all of these places that I could talk about. Is there any particular memories that this is bringing up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing, because we started on the East Coast. We started in San Jose, went to the East Coast, and then West Coast. This trip will just do the West Coast, and it was, beautiful. And you were in Costa. That area is just phenomenal. And then the Arenal is the area with the volcano. We did kayaking and whitewater rafting and zip line tours, and it was absolutely incredible. So it's kind of the heart of Costa Rica there, with so much to do there. And yeah, I just seeing those names brings me right back there, and it's like, I want to go. I can't wait to go.
Then the new area that we haven't been, but would enjoy, is this flight down to Panama. And obviously they picked this little spot for a reason, for the canal, and we would have a chance to see the Panama Canal, which would be pretty cool. And then back home again. And always by that point, you're pretty sad that, it's coming to an end. But, okay, let's be honest, it's been 9 days and you're really tired. It's kind of nice to get on that plane and fly back home again. But having some amazing memories. So, this brings back some great memories. That mountain, that volcano is really cool. We kayak right at the base of that mountain, and it's a really cool area where they put in a dam to make a hydroelectric dam, and then they knew this ahead of time, was going to flood this valley, and so they moved all these people that used to live in that valley somewhere else. And then so when you're paddling, you're actually kayaking over this town. And at one point you go right over the top of an old church where the steeple is still sticking up. So you're kayaking over a town looking up at a volcano. It's pretty cool. And I can't speak much to Panama City because I haven't been there. Costa, there's some really gorgeous beach, and we do have a snorkeling day in there, which is pretty cool. Usually we have a guide with us, and the 2 times that we've gone there, we've been able to get a chance to see an octopus. Did you get this chance to touch the octopus too?
I didn't hold it, but
big chicken.
yeah, it was. It was legit.
They really stick. It's amazing. They stick to you. Anyway, and then San Jose, we'll be there briefly too. So, all right. Some of the biggest highlights, some of the most fun. What haven't we talked about much? The waterfall. There's a huge waterfall. We're not just talking about a little waterfall. This is a massive waterfall. And you go down like 400 steps to get to the base of this waterfall. So you can imagine how much water and how long it's falling. It's pretty impressive. And that is really cool. The hot springs. That's in an area by the volcano where the volcano heats up the water. And that hot springs is just amazing. We usually, I've done it in the afternoon, I've done it in the evening. It kind of depends on how they schedule it, but it's always relaxing whenever you do that. Do you remember the hot springs?
Oh, yeah.
Tell them about the hot springs a little bit.
That's where the infamous slide was. That I don't know if it'd be legal in this country or not. It was pretty fast, and I went up to the top of it, and the guy standing up there, he's like, "You really want to go on this?" I was like, can't be that bad, can it? And he just kind of laughed as I went by, and then that's where I came out of the slide sideways, and yeah. Luckily, I did still have my suit on, so.
We had 2 slides there. Thankfully, one of the 2 was more safe, and
Yeah,
we had kids go down that one. But
I had to test it out first, and then we were like, no, you probably better not try that.
yeah, we went on the more safe one. Anyway. Let's see. Whitewater rafting. Gosh, it's like, oh, side note, we're whitewater rafting. That would have been the highlight of any of my personal family trips. And it's just one of many things that we get a chance to do. The guides, there's always one guide per boat. So it's not like James and I are trying to get the kids safely around these rocks in the river and stuff. You have a guide that's doing that. And it's not like class 5, crazy ones. They're not that bad, but there's exciting moments too. So anyway, let's see. The visit to the center of the Panama Canal. Definitely can't speak to that one, but I'm excited to see it. And can't tell you anything about Monkey Island other than I did check and there are monkeys. So, all right. Some basically reviews are a big deal, right? So they've got you the reviews here of basically people went and had fun. Big surprise. And there was a question about discover more about themselves. I thought that was an interesting one. 92% of kids said that they discovered more about themselves. Grew more confident and independent, 98. That's kind of impressive too. Expand your knowledge of the world around you. Of course, you're just going to see so much that you just can't see in Minnesota. Especially when it's cold here and it's beautiful there. Have I mentioned it's beautiful and warm there? So that's definitely a selling point. Understanding other cultures, it really is cool to get a chance to see kind of how people live in different parts. It's so different, obviously, than how everybody just lives their day-to-day lives here. So what is included? I know you're all waiting for the price tag. Everybody wants to know. Everybody, how much does this cost? But it's important to know that it covers a lot of stuff. Because I could talk about, I can get airfares down there for this much, but you got to add up a lot of different things when you take a trip like this. It does have the airfare. They vetted the hotel rooms. They've always been safe. They've always been clean. And there's a 24/7 tour director with us who does speak the language and does know where it's safe to go, where it's not safe to go, and that is, you can tell, that is their number one priority. Nope, we're not going to do that. And nope, there's a kayaking down the little tiny river at night. No, we're not doing that. There's alligators in there, and they'll keep you from doing the stuff that you might have thought would have been cool but wouldn't be safe.
We've been fortunate enough to get some amazing tour guides that they really become part of our group where, the kids are, I think they're still friends on Instagram and everything, and it's.
Remember Ando?
Yeah,
Yes.
It's great. So
anyway, the on-tour transportation, that covers a lot of stuff because we're in boats. We're in tour buses. The buses aren't like school buses. These are like the nice buses, which is really nice. They're always air conditioned, which you might think in Minnesota you wouldn't care that much, but down there it's going to be like 90. It's really nice that they're air conditioned. In fact, the air conditioning breaks down. They just like pull the bus over, and we're going to get on a different bus. That happened to us because it's just hot. So you want that air conditioned bus as you're traveling on the roads. Let's see. It is a very educational itinerary. They build in a lot of stuff. They know that these are kids from schools that are wanting to learn stuff. So there's a lot of good education stuff built in. Plus, James and I will add stuff that we see, because as a math teacher, I might see things differently than the science teacher might see them, than the guide that's with us might see it differently. So, tons of guided tours and activities, and everything's included. We didn't price this. There'd be a sneaky way to price this, would be to make the trip really cheap, but then say, oh, by the way, did you want to go snorkeling? Well, here, pay another $50. Or did you want to, have the insurance coverage? That's another $150. This includes the insurance too. This has got the global protection travel plan. So heaven forbid you're in a terrible kayaking accident and now you need, surgery or whatever. If they can't do it in country, they'll fly you home. If you're going to have a serious surgery, they'll fly mom or dad down to you. So that it's basically a really good insurance plan. And we've had one kid who, for instance, things you don't think about, he was in a hockey accident. He got hit really hard, broke a bunch of ribs, and so he didn't feel safe to travel. So used the travel plan before he even left, because the travel plan covered the cost of his trip. It has a deductible on it, but it's just really nice to know that you've got coverage even before you go on the trip. And we've had people use it, and they were satisfied with that. So, and I think how it worked, there was a deductible, but then they also got some money off of a trip if they wanted to sign up again next year, kind of thing. Like, so anyway, things you'll cover. You'll cover, as in are not covered. You have to pay for your own passport. We don't have to worry about a visa for Costa Rica. I don't think you have to worry. I think they would have told me if there was anything with Panama. It must be the same. I don't think there's going to be a visa thing, but I can't promise you that because I've never been to Panama. But if so, the visa fee is not super expensive there. Airport baggage fees. If you decide to travel with a full-size, great big suitcase, you're paying. And I'm going to really strongly encourage you not to do that. We've been able to so far, every trip, been able to get by with. Everybody just uses one carry-on. Because you're going to a really warm climate. You don't have to pack a coat. You don't have to pack boots. You don't have, you can get by with just a carry-on. So you don't need to pay the baggage fee. But if you're gonna, then that's on you. Spending money. You get that there's a totally different budget in different families for that. Some kids are gonna be sent with $500 and buy everything that you want. And other kids are gonna be, sent with $20 plus whatever you want to bring, So you can decide for yourself on how much spending money you want to send, because your kid will be eating. Every single meal is paid for. Every single activity is paid for. Okay, so you wouldn't have to send them with a dime. I do recommend you send a few bucks with them, but that's how much spending money you send is totally up to you. I would bring some additional snacks, even though the meals have been very good. The kids actually raved about the food. It was really good. They loved it. Every now and then there's like the main course you just like, on one night I just didn't like it or whatever. It's nice to have a few power bars with you that are kind that you like, and you can just grab that. Or if you didn't, maybe you didn't feel hungry at supper and so you didn't eat much. Well, now it's later and you want something. It's nice to have a few snacks with you. The tipping, that is something we'll encourage you to do if you decide to come along. I'm going to tell you, it's typically like, I think they say $9 a day is what they recommend total for tips, and we end up taking care of that. We will end up taking the money and then handing it out. A lot of times for the big tip at the end where you give the guide that's been with you, we'll give the money back to the kids and say, okay, now give this to the guide, and have a chance to talk to the guide and say thank you and give it to them. But we will basically encourage you to set aside some money for tipping in your head. That's not something that's included in this. And $9 a day for tipping includes like $1 for a taxi to go here and a $1 for a local guide who's going to show us around the city.
Those guided tours that on the whitewater raft trips, I mean, they're locals that are they're awesome, and so and that's their living. So we like to pay them a good tip because they give us a great time.
Yep. Yeah. So just like you would if you have a good dinner and you're going to tip the waiter or waitress, you should do the same kind of a thing when you have a person who hangs out with you for 4 hours on a zip line tour. You should give them a little tip. So again, $9 a day total is what you can kind of budget in your head for that. So, and if you decide to do that college credit thing, that does cost extra, and that would be something you'd have to cover. So it talks about a donation page. That's where, if you want to, you can set up something where, hey, Grandma, instead of getting me a Christmas gift, you can give some money to my donation page. You know what I mean? You can have a little thing set up where you can encourage relatives who would like to, encourage this trip to share there. I don't think you're going to get too many tears on a GoFundMe page. I need to go to Costa Rica really bad, but maybe Grandpa. So.
You can try it.
So here it is. Bottom line, if you want to go, it's going to be, well, they have different payment plans, but I'm going to focus in on the paid in full is the $3,720. And just for perspective, that's, I know me saying that probably doesn't count, but that's not that bad. We had other trips that have been over 4,000, and Our last trip to Costa Rica was not that, it was a little less than this, but we weren't going to Panama. It adds a whole nother country in. A lot of the trips that other groups have done have run in that $4,000 range, so this is actually a little on the lower side compared to a lot of Minnetonka trips that have run. So part of it is that just Costa Rica is a somewhat inexpensive place to be. So they treat us really well when we're there, but I know that their costs on a trip like this are a lot lower than, for instance, in Iceland, where things are really expensive. So if you decide, if you're squinting and looking at the adults can travel too, and why the heck is the adult price more? It is more, but part of it is that when these travel companies are getting their tickets from the airlines, there's still such a thing as a student rate, and you can't get that for an adult. And so there are some extra costs for having an adult along, so it does cost a little bit more if you want to come along with your son or daughter. Here for you. If you did it monthly, basically starting now, you got about 4 months, so you got, maybe 5 months. So you got about $900 a month. So there are custom payment plans available too. So if you want to, you can call the company. I can put up. It's actually. Would you look up that number for me?
Well,
there's a phone number
on the
somewhere.
site. There's more contact information.
That's
for
true.
them as well.
On the site, there's more information
on
about
the back of the
payment plans.
magazine is the phone number and then mail. But phone number's there as well.
Now, I know some of you are looking around the room saying, well, probably we won't have 20 people, but you never know. Sometimes there's a group of like 4 people or 5 people. I know there's been quite a few people that have emailed me at the last minute saying, I want to go, but I can't make it tonight. Can you please record this? So I'm recording it. So there's a lot of people that aren't in the room right now that are interested in coming on the trip. So.
There's that Vikings game.
Yeah, it turns out there's a Vikings game tonight. Boo. Bad planning on Mr. Finch's part. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Did you have a question?
I was going to ask, so we're not fundraising like as a group?
Good question. We are not fundraising as a group. If we did fundraise as a group, I can tell you that would probably raise a few $100s. It wouldn't be enough to like make a big impact. And so, there's not going to be a way to really cut the costs of this dramatically. I wish there were. I really do. In my dream world, I'll be the rich guy who comes back and does the trip and just pays for anybody who can't afford it. But I can't do that at this point. So, yes.
So for like if you take a payment plan, when is like the final date when everything is due?
That is an excellent question. I do not know that answer. But the question, by the way, was when exactly would all of the money have to be in by? I can tell you that you can pay $95 to lock in a spot, and they're going to give you quite a bit of time to get the final amount in. So the $95 holds the spot for a long time. Yes?
It's here.
You found it?
Final payment is due up to 25 days prior to departure.
Thank you. Somebody has found it. Final payment is due up to 25 days prior to departure. So bottom line, that means if we're departing in the end of March, basically beginning of March. And again, they'll work with you on not how much it costs, but they'll work with you on how you want to pay that. Because I understand not everybody's going to be writing a $3,700 check. But a $95 check can get it started. And then the money has to be in by, I think you just figured it out. Thank you very much. 25 days before. Yes?
So if you're like an adult traveling as a group, what if you didn't stay at the hotel that's the kids are staying at, or if you stay in a different spot, it's cheaper?
That is a good question. You can't get a discount on the trip I did ask this for a different family one time. There was a family who was thinking about going, and they wanted to maybe stay somewhere else to just kind of be nearby. If you can, you're an adult, you can leave anytime you want to when you're on the trip, but it's not going to cut your cost. The cost will still be the same for the adult. And they can go, and let's say that you wanted to stay at this gorgeous place you've heard of. Sure, the adults can go off and stay where they'd like to stay, but they won't get a discount on the cost of the trip. So, good question. Yes?
Kind of like a weird question, but
It's all right.
Panama, what's the vaccines or what do you have to get to go?
Good question. We will be, anybody who actually signs up, then we actually will get you the next step, which is basically to go to your doctor, because your doctor will have to decide for you.
They're gonna have the latest info anyways.
Because what I've found is it really depends. Because if you might be speaking on behalf of your son or daughter who might be immune compromised. Well, then it's a whole different thing than somebody who's just kind of got a standard immune system going. I can tell you from past experience that I just needed to get one shot to be able to go. Okay, and that was to Costa Rica.
Okay.
And I'm guessing, considering they also factor in where in the country you're going to go. So, like, if you're going to the middle of the jungle in Panama, they're going to have a different recommendation than you're going to go to a city, get on a boat, go in a river, go to the Panama Canal. It's not going to be the same
Okay.
list. So, but I'm aware that the Panama Canal is where a lot of people died of malaria. So that'd be one of the ones that they're going to want you to be ready for. So these are all excellent questions.
You said that earlier that, you know, if only 6 people signed up. Is there a minimum that have to sign up to be able to go?
I'm gonna say 6, but we did actually pull it off with 5 before, but 5 or 6, yes.
And then 20 max.
Yes. And the 20 max is also, it depends. A lot of times they can look at the situation and go, yeah, we can free it up another 3-4 spots. But it all depends if they're merging us with another group, then they can't go over certain maximums. So they'll guarantee us 20, and if it goes above 20, usually we can get the 21st, 20. We actually got 23 one time, and we were fine. So,
And then you were in your own group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then
yes,
the bunk up situation, is it 2 or 4? Like I have
it's a good question.
12, would it be 2 or 4 in a room?
We've had as many as 5 in a room, and we've had it as lucky as the kid got their own room before. That's not normal, but if you really, really want your own room,
She asked me.
Yep.
yeah, it's a good question. If you really want your own room, you can pay extra and be guaranteed your own room every night, but it costs extra to have that. And it's frankly, part of the fun is just being able to hang out and talk to decompress with the other kids. So.
And there's the option for, if you wanna bunk with a certain person to a friend, is that extra? If you wanna set it up so.
If you want to guarantee that I am with so-and-so and we each have our own bed and you can set up plans like that too. Let's say you and a best friend want to go and you want to be locked in, that we each have our own bed in a double room, you can pay extra and they can guarantee you that too. So,
The extra cost for that is just because they can't always guarantee just the 2 people in one room, so they have to kind of set that up ahead of time.
yeah. It basically costs them more money to have that less flexibility, and so they probably going to have an extra room because of it. And so, anyway, they pass along the costs to you, but it's not super expensive considering it's a 9-day trip. I think if I remember right, it was like $300 extra to lock in special sleeping.
And that, what, if you wanted 2 in there. Now,
Yep.
say my daughter convinces somebody else that she knows to go on the trip, can they kind of be knowing they're gonna?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of set it up. I mean,
Yes, in the end, okay, so the question for the people at home was that if my daughter gets a friend to come along, can they be assured that they're going to spend time together? Yes. Can I promise you that we would for sure be able to have every single night in the same room with each other? No. But would we work really hard to keep them together? Yes. And usually what happens is we'll have this group of 2 friends which we want to keep together, and then we got to put in 2 more people in with that same room, and so we'll try to keep them together, but who they're with might be different. But again, if you want to lock that in for a few dollars more, you can lock that in, but otherwise I can just say that we try really hard if you bring a friend along to keep you with the friend, because we want you happy. So. And also that usually brings up, well, what if I don't bring a friend? It's okay. You're going to meet new people, and there's a lot of cool people that go on trips like this, and you don't have to bring a friend along. That being said, bringing a friend along is awesome. So if you've got a friend that wants to go, man, that really is a good time. My trip that I got to go on with Mr. Van Hooser, I had a good friend who was with me on that trip, and we still talk about some of the things we did together. So it's really fun. And if you got a parent who's teetering on the edge, go along with your kid. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It'll be something you'll share as a memory, guaranteed for the rest of your life. So,
Is there a minimum age requirement, speaking of friends?
Minimum age, that's a good question. We were allowed to bring along a student from the middle school last year. I would want to make sure that the principal, I did ask him last time, and he didn't make it sound like, oh, sure, no big deal. He wanted to know a few more details before he said yes, but he did say yes. So I believe that if you have a kid from Minnetonka especially, that's going to make it easier. But otherwise, I think it would be comparable to when a kid goes to a dance here at Minnetonka. If you want to bring a friend who's not from Minnetonka, then the principal's going to want to like vet that situation. So if you get there where this is going to be maybe a reality, talk to me. I'll work with the principal to see if we can make that happen. I'm not going to try to actively avoid having a middle school kid come along, because we've had middle school kids along and they're a lot of fun. So it's no problem. Yes, question.
When do they finalize the dates?
When do they finalize the dates? I can tell you that that's not absolutely for sure until about a month ahead of time. It'll take a while. But I can also tell you that so far, we have always gotten the day we wanted, which is the day right after our spring break. Okay, so I'd be very confident, but I couldn't guarantee it, that we would have travel date be the day that our spring break starts. That make sense? I wish I could lock it in earlier than that, but they don't tell me until a month ahead of time. Sometimes it's been like 40 days, but in that neighborhood.
For the 9 days, I would assume like there's 1 day on each end, so it's 7 days, 1 day on each end for travel.
Yes.
And then, so it's the 7 days.
Yep.
How much is that? Is it 1 day in Panama and 6 days in Costa Rica, or what's the breakdown?
3 or 4 in Panama.
I think it's 3 in Panama.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to say 6 and 3 is your breakdown out of the total of 9.
Okay.
6 and 3. So it definitely leans heavy on the Costa Rica side, more like a side trip at the end to just quick see a few sites in Panama.
Gotcha.
So, and I don't have that exact number, but I bet you anything, if you go to the website we referenced there, the rsvp.efttours.com/R6WCZ
U6.
All right. One last thing I want to leave you with, and you can stay and ask questions all night if you, well, okay. You can stay and ask questions for a while afterwards, but these little smiley faces that you see on this sheet, and I'm sorry, people at home, you can't see this, but I got a sheet that's got a whole bunch of little smiley faces on it. Anybody want to guess what a smiley face equals? It's got a lot of smiley faces on it. It's a good guess.
That went on a trip they liked.
Oh, I like all these suggestions. A person that went on a trip and is happy, yes. Nope. Every smiley face is a week of your life. You get this many smiley faces in a lifetime. Okay? That's a week for every week of your life. And there's some weeks of your life that you probably can't remember at all. You know what I mean? You go back in time, there's a whole lot of those. A whole lot of, like, weeks last year I can't remember. I don't remember anything. Guarantee. You see that little green one I filled in there? Guess what that one is? That's that trip to Costa Rica that you're never going to forget. So I'm just reminding you that this is the kind of thing that sticks with you. And you'll remember that week for the rest of your life. So, any last questions? If you want to stay and ask questions, you may. I really hope you come along with us. And keep talking to me via email. I'll be glad to respond to you. david.server@minnetonkaschools.com, and it's spelled SURVER for those of you that are home. And thank you very much for coming tonight. And that's all I got for the video. Have a great day. So, if you decide this is for you and you want to do it, this is the link. And I encourage everybody right now, think of it as like a digital brochure. Go to eftours.com, grab your phone, just if you would be willing to type this in right now. And you're not enrolling right this second. This would just be the place you could go to enroll. eftours.com/ and I'll leave that number up there. This will get you what you would need. And if you want to hold a spot, we have got a lock on 20 spots that are guaranteed for us. And we are, what I would do is put down the $95 to hold the spot. And after that, you aren't committed to have to spend the rest of the money, but it is a $95 deposit, which is non-refundable. So if you decide to pull out after that, you don't get your $95 back. But I can tell you that if you decide to go, you'll have an amazing time. There has not been one kid who would have said at the end of this that wasn't worth it. Everybody comes back and says that was amazing. So I know you'd enjoy it. All right, now this is the part where I'm guessing there might be a question or two, and I would be happy to field some questions and still continue the recording. So anybody got questions for me so far? I know I've been talking for a long time. Might take a minute to get the questions flowing.
What's the final date to enroll?
Well, what they say here is enroll by 10/31. I can tell you that they will let you go longer than that, but they won't lock the price longer than that. So if the price is guaranteed to not go up until November. But, and I don't know, I don't have inside information about that they're going to raise the price in November. They might be able to keep it the same. I'm gonna hope that in case we don't, have as many people as we'd like, that they'll keep the price the same. But bottom line, if you wait past the 31st, then it's just, the price might be, and from my experience, typically 100 or two more. It's only if you wait till like January that all of a sudden it gets way more expensive, because now they aren't getting the super cheap tickets anymore, because they're, anyway. So, if you're gonna do this, I would recommend that, well, honestly, I'd recommend that you do it before the 31st, and just plan to go, and I know you'll have fun. So, yes?
There aren't any like scholarship options or anything like that?
Good question. I don't have any great news on scholarships. I wish we had a benefactor. Maybe someday when you strike it rich in your meth business, you can, well, I'm sorry, Breaking Bad, science teacher. Anyway, someday I hope that we can just take care of it for kids that need that, but I can't promise you that. I can tell you that they do, they make it sound like you can raise money on your fundraising page, but the reality is you're going to probably have to get people in your family to help out. There's not going to be much help. I did hear somebody talk to the counselors, and in a financial need situation, they were able to come up with a few $100s, but we're not talking about like a half scholarship or anything like that.
What are the
So,
payment plans?
I'll put those payment plans back.